Good morning, everyone, dear students of class 8. Let us start our today's class. As all of you know it very well, in my previous class, I had already started a new chapter with you, a new topic, and the topic it was Michelangelo. Now, I am going to teach you the second page of the same chapter, that is page number 34. Please pay attention and try to understand it. Here I begin the very first paragraph of this new page. 4 years ago, Michelangelo had started painting the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. So in this way, we come to know here that how Pope Julius had offered him a task of painting. Pope had told him to paint the ceiling of Sistine Chapel. This is a duty that he had offered to Michelangelo. He would lie for hours beneath the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. So very often it was found that Michelangelo used to be found to be lying down on the floor, and sometimes he used to be found staring towards to the ceiling, staring at it and muttering to himself, and was found to be muttering some funny words or such words which would not be able to be understood clearly. He used to mutter these words within himself. Okay. In those lime coated brick and mud walls, Angelo was searching for faces. Those walls, those ceilings of Sistine Chapel, he was so desperate to make such faces, and he was found to be very thoughtful for those faces to paint on those walls and the ceilings of Sistine Chapel. The faces of Jesus, the Virgin Mary, and Judas, these were the special faces that he was supposed to paint over the ceiling and the walls of Sistine Chapel. Faces of Jesus, Virgin Mary, Mother Mary, and Judas, one of the disciples of Jesus Christ, who had betrayed. Isn't it? He swore he could see their flesh and blood forms. So what he was able to understand and he was able to imagine, and he swore within himself that he was able to imagine those flesh and blood of the forms of these people, of these various holy people. He was able to imagine to make their painting over the walls and ceilings, but their faces, he mumbled, their faces are buried deep in the verses of the Bible. But still, even though he was trying his best to imagine those faces of Jesus, faces of Mother Mary, Judas, but still it was quite not very easier enough for him to imagine those faces very clearly, because those faces, how do they look like, what might be their appearance, what kind of look that they may possess, such type of thoughts it used to generally come into his mind, and that would be only possible by going through the verses of Bible, by understanding Bible, by reading Bible only it was quite possible to understand and imagine and have a complete and clear picture of those faces within oneself. This is what Michelangelo was able to realize. Children, they elude me, he groaned, they continue to elude. Elude here it means remain hidden from. So much he tried his level best to imagine, but still those faces of Mary, Jesus as well as Judas remained very much in illusion. Okay, in illusion means to remain hidden. Every time it tried to remain hidden from his imagination. This is what it is understood here by the meaning elude, children. The Pope had begun to doubt Michelangelo's sanity in this way. Very often it was found that he was very thoughtful, he was very in imagination. So this made Pope also to think quite in doubt what Michelangelo is trying to do. What is his plans? Isn't it? This is what Pope might be thinking, Pope Julius might be thinking. Once he had stood very close and overheard Michelangelo repeating passages from the Bible. Even one of the time, Pope had found that Pope had overheard Michelangelo that he was repeating those lines and the passages from the Bible, which also made Pope to be very doubtful. What exactly are you doing, Angelo? He had happened to ask him this question. What you are trying to do? Why you look so thoughtful? What you are muttering and sometimes mumbling? This is what Pope's doubt it was all about. And Pope had asked curiously. And in this time, when Pope asked in such a manner, he was very curious to know about Michelangelo's thoughts and feelings and his thinking. This is what it is understood here. What? Angelo looked up, startled. Oh, I am trying to unravel. In this way, Michelangelo had replied. He had given the response. What do you mean? Angelo had looked up and said to Pope, I am trying to unravel. Unravel, here it means discover the meaning. I am trying to discover or find out each and every meaning of all those faces. How do they look like? What type of figure they had? What type of faces those were? All these are all I am trying to find out the meaning of all those. That is why I am so thoughtful. This is how Michelangelo had tried to make Pope realize and understand about his thoughtfulness nature. Maybe then I will find the faces. There was a hint of despair in Michelangelo's voice. By this type of response given by Michelangelo, it was quite understandable for Pope that the voice in which, the manner in which he gave the response, it was giving such a kind of hint that he was in a very great despair. Despair means in sorrow, in sadness, because his voice itself, it was quite clear. Through his voice only, it was quite understandable that he was in sorrowful state, right? This is what we come to learn here. The Pope understood Angelo's frustration. Julius remembered how during one of his inspections he had seen that Angelo had drawn several sketches of the angel Gabriel. So in this way, Pope was also quite able to realize and come to know that how much that Michelangelo was in frustration, because in one of the time, in the earlier time, when once Pope was in the inspection of his various works, he had also found and seen how Michelangelo had drawn so many pictures and sketches of the angel Gabriel. This incident also he was well here able to understand and remember. How did you see Gabriel? How you are able to make the picture of Gabriel? How you were able to imagine Gabriel's image? This is what Pope happens to ask. He asked. He doesn't belong to this world either, because he is not belonging to this world, but still you were able to make his face. How it was possible? Pope happens to ask this question to Michelangelo. Angelo had looked up to meet the Pope's eyes. In this way, to give the response of this particular question asked to him by Pope, Angelo also now stares towards to Pope. At that time, I heard his voice in the Old Testament, because I had heard him saying something, speaking something, uttering some words in the Old Testament. Old Testament here it is, the Holy Bible it is meant here, children. So this is what we come to learn here in these various paragraphs of the chapter. Now let us move towards to the next para. Then you must have heard God's voice too, the Pope had joked. Here, when Michelangelo says that I had heard his voice in the Old Testament, here Pope Julius likes to have a bit of joke with Michelangelo. That is why he says, if you had heard the voice in the Old Testament, at that moment you might have also heard the God's voice too. But Michelangelo responds here, I heard his silence. Angelo's words were terse, and when he said these words, his words were to the point and he really meant it. But the Pope had known without the shadow of a doubt that he had chosen the right man for the task. In this way, by such type of remarks and the response which was made by Michelangelo, Pope was very happy, he was satisfied, and that is why he was very confident and happy that he had found a right person, a suitable person, as well as a perfect person for the task of his painting in his Sistine Chapel. Eccentric, he had told the Vatican committee. Even he had used the term eccentric when he was once responding towards to the Vatican committee. What he said? Eccentric. Eccentric, here it means strange and unusual. To whom it meant? It was meant to Michelangelo, isn't it? In this way, that Pope was very impressed by the work of Michelangelo. But he is the only one who can paint the Sistine Chapel. And he also told to those committee members that Michelangelo was only the person who could paint the Sistine Chapel to its level. Isn't it? This is what he meant. Michelangelo had found Mary with the greatest of ease. Now, here, once when Michelangelo started the painting of the Sistine Chapel, he found it very easy while he was painting Mother Mary's face. Why? There is reason behind it. Let us go through the reason in this coming passage. It had happened long ago, the day he saw his mother carrying 2 pots of water strung from a bamboo stick on her shoulder. So it was happened quite long back. So what he had noticed? He had noticed that his own mother one day had been carrying 2 pots of water strung from a bamboo stick on her shoulder. That is how she was found to be carrying water on her shoulder with the help of bamboo stick, and the pots were hanging in that particular stick which she was carrying. He had thought that the woman who had borne Christ in her womb would have been like his own mother. He thought the woman who had given the birth to Jesus Christ might be the similar type of woman who is here right in front of him now. That is his own mother. Just as thin and frail as Mother Mary was thin and frail, and his own mother was also looking thin and frail. He remembered watching his mother with unblinking eyes as she warmed the water for his father's bath. How delicately and tenderly mother behaved, how she was very careful to give comfort and support, and always she was found to be busy for taking care of her family members. How sometimes she used to warm waters for the father's bath, and how sometimes she even used to provide so much comfort and support to himself. By all these kind of activities and the feelings, Michelangelo was quite able to understand and realize that if mothers are like this, then definitely Mother Mary also should be the same, isn't it? That is what it gave him quite good confidence, and it gave him a good a kind of support to realize it, that if mothers are like this in nature, maybe Mother Mary also should be the same. That is why it was quite easier for him to make the face of Mother Mary in Sistine Chapel. Her face reflected the warmth of the roaring fire flushed. Flushed here it means bright red because of heat or effort. Such type of Mother Mary's face that he liked to make in painting, the face which his own mother possessed. His own mother's face, her face reflected the warmth of the roaring fire. Flushed, such type of face that he also liked to make over the walls and the ceilings of the Sistine Chapel too, like that of his own mother's face, which was going to resemble Mother Mary. Burning like molten gold. Michelangelo had immediately retired to here it means to go for a purpose, isn't it? His study to sketch that face again and again. In this way, Michelangelo now decided to go for that same face of his own mother to make the painting over the ceiling of Sistine Chapel, and also at the same time he had immediately retired to his study to sketch that face again and again. This is what we come to learn here in these paragraphs, children. But that was a long time ago. Michelangelo remembered that they were living in Bologna then. So whatever these incidents that here Michelangelo happens to remember, he believes these all incidents had happened long time back, when once they used to live in the city of Bologna. He even remembered vividly. Vividly means very clearly the eatery at the corner of their street, the various type of eatable things which were found nearby the corner of those streets of the city of Bologna. These things also he remembers here. It was his special hunt, his father's to these places of eating places where especially it was meant for himself as well as his father. These places were the special hunt. Hunt means the places which are very likable for anyone to go and visit more than once. So in this way, those streets of the Bologna, city of Bologna, were the haunting place of Michelangelo as well as his father. While his father sat eating inside, very often father was found to be sitting inside and eating. Michelangelo sat on a bench outside. He would buy hot peanuts from a nearby vendor. Generally, very often it was found that Michelangelo used to be buying hot peanuts to enjoy it just nearby the vendor's shop. Noticing how every time the man weighed them out, a few won't fall to the ground. A naked urchin here it means small homeless child, generally dressed in rags. Isn't it? These were the sites which generally it was drawn towards to by Michelangelo. This is what it was found. A naked urchin would scurry. Scurry here it means move or run quickly. These were the various sights that he usually used to happen to notice in those streets in those times while they were in the city of Logna. While he was enjoying the peanuts, this type of visions, this type of sights that he used to have to notice in those times. And across the street, pick the nuts and give them to the vendor, quietly popping one into his mouth, one peanut for every time he helped the peanut seller. Then he would wait for the next customer. The sight fascinated Angelo. All these various sights, sceneries, whichever it was found to be noticed there over the streets of, isn't it, that particular city, it made Michelangelo very much fascinated. He was very much impressed, delighted and fascinated by such type of sights to be noticed in those times, in those days. He drew several sketches of the child. In this way, as he was a painter, so whenever he had notices such type of sights or visions, at once he used to start his work of making the sketch. Many years later, while carving the Madonna of Brussels, he had used those sketches to make the little Jesus. Even after some time later, he drew many such type of sketches of the little children. And many years later, after that, many years it passed, and he was also able to make the carvings of Madonna of Brussels. Okay, he had used those sketches to make the little Jesus, and with the help of those sketches, he had been able, successful enough to make the sketches of Jesus small and naked. So this is what we come to understand here and come to the end of this passage also. So today we are going to stop it by this much only. Next class we will be more continuing the remaining portion of the chapter. Please remain in touch and always follow the classes properly so that it will be easier enough for you to understand them well, so that while writing the test too, it will be no more any difficulty to you. So this much for today. Thank you very much.